Left off.
From the top, from Chris. Sorry. And 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It's Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 279 is titled, Two Things Can Be True. We live in an increasingly absolute world. Lines are being drawn more and more often. However, perhaps it doesn't have to be that way. We're talking about that at the table this evening. Pull up a seat and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later on YouTube at Lunchtime in Rome. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, and while there, you could take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you could give us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast
At the
about?
table, we strive to love one another and help you to do the same. Some weeks we will have someone join us so that you can get to know them and learn a little bit about yourself in the process. Other weeks we dive into a topic. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That's what we do. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is
Lunchtime in Rome.
Lunchtime in Rome.
Amy's back.
I'm back. Hi, guys. How are ya?
Good.
Everybody
The
good?
question is, how's Amy?
Amy is great.
It's been a minute.
It has. I know. Amy's happy to be at the table.
Oh, she went third person.
I did. I did. No, I'm very excited.
Jimmy's gonna jump.
I'm very excited to be here and excited about the topic and just, good to be with good people. So
Kids
yeah.
are good?
Kids are awesome.
Superstar?
Yeah.
Distinguished
Isn't that cool?
Child of the Year award or whatever it was?
That 100%. Child of the century, I think. I don't know. No.
Wow.
Could have done more.
That's
to
a big award.
to promote her, though.
I tried. She drove a lot of that. She really did. The
was
hardest
beautiful.
part was trying to step back just a smidgen and let her do because it was her thing.
I
But
thought you were gonna be like, tone it down.
no,
well,
she.
fill everybody in case they're
Yeah.
not
Sure.
friends with you on
So,
Facebook.
so Abby, my older daughter, was nominated to be a Student Visionary of the Year candidate through the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And as such, she ran a 7-week campaign. She was one of 17 or 18 candidates overall for the class of 2025. Collectively, as a class, they raised just over $500,000 in 7 weeks.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
It's a lot of money and
That
a
is a lot of
lot of
money.
impact. And Abby,
And you would know.
yeah. Personally, Abby raised over $17,000. Her team raised a little over 18. And yeah, it was listen, this was a learning experience in many ways. It was a learning experience. I will say that.
I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah, me.
Not a learned man, but I
Yeah.
would say that's a large percentage.
Can't have an abacus at the table here. There's not enough room.
An abacus?
Right, but bum.
Yeah.
But probably one of the single coolest moments was on Friday evening. They had their grand finale where everyone came together to be celebrated, and there were 3 Mission Pillar awards given out that evening, one for research, one for patient advocacy, and one for something else that I forget. Sorry. And Abby was the first one called, and so we all about fell out of our chairs. That we were not expecting it. We knew nothing. This was the first time we were ever involved in it, first time anyone from Penn Trafford was ever involved. So they called her name, and I think we all simultaneously screamed and froze.
That's awesome. That's the
So-
best because
Yeah.
you have no idea it's coming. That's,
None.
You never because if you think it's coming and then you don't get it, well, that's just
Oh,
disappointment.
that's terrible.
So not
Yeah.
knowing and then you get it, what a great surprise!
And it was
That's
a
awesome.
positive experience for her?
Overall, yes.
I mean, yeah.
definitely
nothing
some.
worth doing doesn't have its
Yeah.
drawbacks and pitfalls.
And I think she would say, and I don't want to speak for her, and Abs, if you're listening, I'm sorry I'm speaking for you, but I think she would say that even in the hiccups, she still had a good experience because she learned a lot and she learned about herself, what she could do, what she was capable of. She
a
had
big
to
lesson.
present at 15 with
Yeah.
everything else she's juggling. I
Wow.
mean,
Yeah.
she's not special in the sense that she's not the only kid who has a sport and school and a part-time job. I mean, there's lots of kids who do that, which I think also makes the program that much more inspiring because all of these kids are like that. So they're not,
Right.
you're not talking about couch potatoes. You're like, oh, this is all you have to do. Like these kids are figuring out a way to wedge this all in with everything else that they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it makes it that much more, I think it makes it much more meaningful. And she had to present, she didn't have to, she was chosen to present to a panel of 6 or 7 people. And one of the questions they asked was, what was the biggest learning or something along those lines. And she said, I found a level of professionalism that I didn't think I had at 15.
Oh.
And to hear her say that, I was sitting in the corner, like kind of moral support and just making sure that, and I just got all teary and thought, like, who is this kid?
Yeah,
like,
just that sentence is great from a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
I found a level of professionalism.
And she did. She talked to businesses and garnered support and just, she was on it. So it was very inspiring. And then you've got Alyssa, who just was so in awe of her big sister, which was very sweet to see. And and she's great. She's diving into volleyball again, and I know that will make you very happy. If you have any pointers, feel free to help her out. And tried basketball for the first time. Still into soccer, so she's she's giving
Getting
it
it
a
done.
whirl. Yeah, she's giving it a whirl.
Yeah.
So and Mark's putting up with all the crazy. So bless you, Mark.
That's awesome.
He's very blessed.
He is. Remind him of that from time to time. He may lose sight of it in the craziness
Not
of
to
the
jump
household.
the gun, but you can be blessed and still stressed.
It's
Two
almost like
things.
two things can be true.
At the same time.
Wow.
That's too early for a segue.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I'm
There's
going
a
to go with it.
Pre-segue, pregue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout
Are you
out
feeling
to,
blessed and stressed too, Eric?
I am. But
the same
shout out to Huntsman Projects. Hunter is doing a great job working away at everything, and we're starting to feel like kind of see like more rapid, happenings in our upstairs from the studio here.
I walked in and I couldn't place what I was smelling, and
Oh,
it was a
yeah.
good smell. It was
Yeah,
not a bad
yeah. It
It
smell,
was
but I'm like,
disorganization.
what is this?
It was clutter.
The
But I
smell-
realized, that's like home construction.
Yeah,
it's just like
the plaster or
Yeah.
like the drywall dust and
I
paint.
walked in yesterday, and it was great seeing him, and he was just spackling. And he goes, yeah, this is the worst part. And I said, well, it's a good thing Amy doesn't like to decorate, and there's no nail holes in the wall. And he's like, yeah.
I've lost count. I've lost count.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that's what he's been doing, but he started painting
for weeks.
yeah. 2 days ago, I think, and like our whole living room is already painted, like completely,
Oh.
like walls and ceiling. So that's exciting to see. So he's gonna.
How's Maggie handling it?
keep on. Really well. Like she's not like. How like you can tell like if things are out of sorts or not
Sure.
right, kids will kind of start acting weird. Not really like any of that. Like she's really handling a lot
How
of
does she
it
with
well.
Hunter?
She's really cute with Hunter, because Hunter's pretty a matter of fact guy. Like he's
He's going to talk to her like she's 40.
yeah, right, yeah, and so and I think Maggie appreciates that. So it's she'll ask some funny questions. I don't have any like thing on hand.
She's like, did you get your taxes in?
Well, one thing that was really funny. She came home and she asked Hunter if she could put her shoes like in the entryway of our house where he's been working, but he wasn't there. And Hunter was like, maybe put him in the kitchen because I don't want to get paint on him. Meanwhile, it wouldn't have mattered. They're play shoes, whatever. But he was being courteous like Hunter does. And later on, she got her shoes back and she wore them. But then when she took them off, she put them back in the kitchen.
Meanwhile,
Right
she's
by the
probably
sink where we stand. But
shoes don't belong in the
But they
kitchen.
were-
This is bananas.
But they were in the kitchen nonetheless.
In the fridge.
Because that's where Hunter
no,
told
that's
her
in the
where to
dining
put
room. The
'em.
fridge is not in the kitchen.
Ray Church wrong pew.
But I appreciated that. One, I appreciate Hunter for being considerate to her shoes, and two, I appreciate Maggie for following direction and remembering.
Yeah.
Hours after the fact. So yeah.
Retention, man. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Eric, those are great, important stories.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
and I have to back up because I had a perfect chance for a segue and I missed it because Amy, you said your daughter is giving all those sports a twirl.
Oh,
a whirl,
yes.
a whirl.
A whirl.
And I was gonna say, what? Eric's giving a whirl these days. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I got bit by the vinyl bug.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny, and I think this is a good example of maybe because I have a high need of acceptance, but that's not the need. I do have a high need of belonging and a high need of support. And one thing that I've kind of always wanted to get into is vinyl, but
Records, Amy,
Yeah.
just so you know.
I thought you meant pants.
Vinyl pants.
you haven't
real
seen that
sque-
selection yet.
He's real squeaky these days, sitting at the table.
But it's one of those things where nobody else is really into it, other than me. It'd be kind of weird, and nobody else to do it with or appreciate it, So then when Chris got into it, as he mentioned last week,
We started a club.
yeah,
Do y'all have a handshake yet? Come on.
No, but it's
So what
fun.
is this like? You listen to records. This is what
Yeah.
the okay.
the turntable's
okay.
right behind Amy here in the studio.
Got two turntables and a microphone. Nobody.
Actually, one
Where it's
turntable.
at,
We
the
got
song.
one turntable and like 7 microphones in here.
That's not how the song goes, Eric. Swing and a miss.
Don't put baby in the corner.
But I actually
Nobody puts
almost
baby in
bought
be
a
your
Beck
Huckleberry.
album.
He got the reference.
You're not a loser.
Yeah.
Proud?
I'm not a loser.
Baby.
No, but Beck does have
So
one
why
of my
don't
favorite
you?
albums. No, but it's been fun.
I was
and
Radiohead. Never mind. What I was doing.
Radiohead. Bleh.
I'm a creep. I'm a loser.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing here?
Anywho,
Wow.
Bring it
Segue,
back.
wrap it all.
but it's been fun, and Chris told me about this app called Discogs, which is
Soon to be a sponsor.
well. What's cool is I got to tell Mike why. Well, he already knows, but I need to tell him that I saw Hellbender vinyl was featured on Discogs,
That's in
the company
Lawrenceville.
that he works
Really?
for.
I
An
cross that every
article
day.
like today.
Friend of mine works
Oh
there.
my gosh!
Yeah.
I'll have
The
to check
sales
it
rep.
out.
So how
Hellbender?
timely was that?
Yeah.
Because he is.
Should I stop in and say
He
hello?
bends hell all the time.
I mean, who doesn't?
You
Why
should.
wouldn't you?
You should definitely stop in and say hi to Mike.
And
I feel like that's a setup.
He's a unique individual.
but it's cool because like you can track your collection, but it also you can add to your wish list, and you can sell and buy within the app, and you can see like what the disc is going for,
Yeah.
and all that. It really is slick.
It's cool that because they have the marketplace through that app is pretty active, and so, I mean, and the number of people who use it have such a variety
Yeah.
of music that like pretty much no matter what you buy, you can once you upload it to your collection, you can see how many have been purchased in the past, whatever, and what the median rate is. And if you have a really nice version, then here's
Yeah.
that upper
Right.
going price. It's pretty cool.
It really is. And you can see the value of your collection, compared to what people are buying and selling for, which is
Yeah.
nice. And it just catalogs everything that you got, so you know what you got all in one place, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm
There is
enjoying
nothing. There is nothing like that sound of a record, like that hiss
Oh, yeah.
and that
Oh,
like
my
crackle.
gosh.
it.
And
Yeah, the little pop when it goes on at first.
I know. I did not know I was missing having a record player until my Amy got me a record player for Valentine's Day. And Clay, in case Amy at the table, you missed last week's episode when I talked about it. But I'm like, oh, this is nice, sweetie. Like I didn't really but that's nice. It's nice. And then I just now I'm hooked.
Well,
Yeah.
like you said, like going because my Amy likes to go like antiquing and
We all have Amy's here, don't we?
yeah, we've got a lot of Amy's.
You're Amy-less. Sorry.
Aimless.
but
I have all the
aimless.
Amy's.
Aimless. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good song by Gathering Field. Speaking of songs,
Yeah, gather.
Not on vinyl.
Oh, I wish that.
it could be.
I wish that live show where they played.
Oh, don't get me started.
That'd be great on vinyl. But the no, I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, like when we go antiquing and stuff, like it's gonna be fun to go on the hunt to see if they, those places have like a random
Oh,
box of records.
that has to change antiquing for you.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It did for me. Like
Yeah.
right away, I'm like, oh, this is fun.
Make yourself a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Is it my turn? Because that's my update too.
Well, then I'll go.
What he said. Let's not be redundant.
I don't want. Nope. So I'm officially. I started apparently yesterday on Young Life staff. I'm back.
Congratulations.
As the interim area director for at least 18 months, or as God so leads. And I say apparently because there was a whole bunch of administrative crap that we had to deal with and passwords and everything else. But I just want to say that the athletes' food pantry that we have at the high school, where Jane Mara has been working every day all school year, where every athlete who has either practice or conditioning or a game that day can come through. And it's very rudimentary. We do have some assistance, but we need to do better because I'd like it to like be real food. And it's just like,
Is it fake food?
Snacks.
energy bars, raw mac and cheese, like just stuff that gets
Processed
donated or
stuff.
whatever, processed stuff.
Yeah.
But it
They need
is
us to
such
be.
a joy each and every day to be with those kids. And 90% are engaging and will look you in the eye and will shake your hand. And I demand, because I'm in charge of them getting in the door. So that like they're in the hallway and then there's a room that's the pantry and Jane's in there with them.
You're a pantry
And you
bouncer.
can only have 6 in there at a time. And I mean, you get kids that are all over the place behavior wise and whatever else. But and it was so funny. I think I said this last week, how Jane was just astounded at how well I worked with the kids. And I'm like, you've known me, right?
I was going to say, you've been working with kids
It's
a
kinda
long
what I do.
time.
But she was also
Sort of my
blown away
jam.
compared to other volunteers that they've had, that like I enjoy being with them and that I engage with them and I make them say hello to me, and I'll either have them shake my hand or I give them
they
a
pick
fist
up
bump
on that,
or whatever.
right?
But this one kid 2 days ago, I mean, we hear this big loud slam and he smashes his backpack on the ground, and he's 5'6", 275. And it makes a big noise. Jane comes running out, and he just did it for effect. And then he was upset she didn't know his name because he'd been there in football, which was fall.
Yeah.
And he was like upset. Well, at that exact moment, the superintendent comes walking down the hallway. And so he hurries up and picks up his backpack. And Jane's like, but what's his name? You know, and the
Yeah.
kid goes, oh, that's Dr. Mizaka.
Oh.
And I said, now there's a whole line of kids. And I said, the level of arrogance, I said, that he thinks for sure
Yeah.
you know his name, that he's going to introduce you to the superintendent. And he sort of chuckles, whatever else. But then the superintendent comes back around and he said, how's everybody today? Okay. I said, yes, sir. Everybody's good. Nobody's throwing any book bags around here. And there's about a 6'5" kid on the football team who never smiles, never anything. And he just got this beautiful smile
Love it.
and cracked up. And I told him, I said, that's the best part of my day.
I was gonna say,
watching
dude,
you
yeah.
laugh at that.
You getting a laugh out of this.
Actually, that was 2
guy.
days ago.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, we were going over his name. Jayor is his name. And of course, Jane said, well, how am I going to remember that? And it's in front of him. And I said, you know, like Eeyore. And she looked at me like, you can't say that. And I'm like, you think he knows Eeyore? And he's just blank-faced the whole time. And I said, we'll call him Jay Paddle. And she looked and she said, what? I said, Jay or Jay Paddle. Now you'll remember it.
O-A-R.
And so he's still sort of talking to her. And
I got
said,
it now.
I said, hey, Jayor. I said,
He's like, I go by Jay Paddle now.
yeah. JP. Actually,
JP,
I'll call
yeah,
him. Actually, that's it.
Yeah,
I'll
there
call
it
him
is.
JP.
Yeah.
But I said, maybe take your hand out of your pants and put your hand in your pocket when you're talking to a lady. Because he just had his hand in his crotch, like many high school guys do. And once again,
Charming.
Jane's eyes went to like this. And she later told Christina, I can't believe he told him that. And I'm like, your dadgum right, I'm going to
Yeah.
tell him that.
Who
Like,
else is going to? Like, that's
nobody. But so it's just been a
Ergo.
blast. It's been fun today. Oh, here's a nice story, and I will finish with this. There are,
it's okay.
I forget what they're called. They are alternative special needs kids with special needs who are now in their adaptive track program. Anyhow,
Okay.
well, they want to be in the food pantry. Some, it's way too stimulating for them. Some don't understand how it's going on. There's aides helping them. And poor me, I'm like, okay, is that person cutting or are they one of those kids? Because kids try to cut and then I have to redirect them. But I don't want to redirect a kid who you can't touch because he's going to go, it's going to be too stimulating for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that I'm looking
How
at
do you
normal
know?
kids. Right. Like, I'm just like, well, I mean, he's not officially one, but he kind of would qualify, you know? And, but
Is
the
this a
point-
sliding scale?
The point of the story is the other kids were super cool around those kids.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything, and they waited their turn, and they did everything, and it was nice, and then they got out of the way, and it all
There
went
you
good.
go.
So it's
That's
just
really
been a
nice.
lot of fun, and I still, the analogy is I have a bunch of great puzzle pieces, don't know how they go together,
Yep.
but God has already told me, he's like, well, you've never known how they go together.
I've never given you the box with the
Lest
picture
you
on the
forget.
front.
You've never had the picture, bruh. Yeah.
Silly
Like,
man.
you think, and you put puzzle pieces together, flip it over. Yeah, there's the picture.
It's supposed to be a dog. Doesn't look
Out of the
like
blue.
one. I don't know.
Speaking of dogs, how's the vinyl collection?
Do you have any
Ooh,
three
Temple
dog
of the
night?
Dog.
You know what? Remember, I saw some 3-dog night at the.
Yeah, that's right. In the $1. Was that in the $1 section?
Overpriced.
I don't think because I would have grabbed it if it was $1.
No, there was one that was great. It was by this. So they have a $1 selection, which is
At Hellbender?
no.
Oh,
This was at
Just golf.
sorry.
The Exchange
This was the exchange out
in Monroeville.
Oh.
But one was this. It was a church choir from
Oh yeah, somewhere local.
85 from Sarver.
Sure, Sarver. Yeah,
Yeah.
from Sarver, PA.
Oh man.
Ain't no Lord up there.
I mean, and they sing about it on
There might,
vinyl,
be, there might be
apparently.
a Christmas present coming your way this year, Chris.
Don't spoil the surprise. Come on.
There was other
Hopefully
things
he'll
to
forget.
select from.
Christmas is a ways away. Hopefully he'll forget.
Yeah, I probably will.
Okay, what are we talking about? Oh my God, hey, how are you?
Oh, good. Hey, you know what's not easy to forget? Those people who sit at the head of the table.
That was your update.
Oh, no, I was serious that my vinyl was my update.
Yeah.
Well, here, I'll give you a quick little, after that nice segue
Way to
I just
go.
had, but I'm going to go backwards. This is what I do. I make it awkward.
Teacher, you forgot to give us homework.
I do have a story
My
like
worst
that
nightmare.
I'll tell
Of
you
course you do.
sometime. I do.
Hey,
Why not?
everybody, staff meeting's just about over. Does anybody have anything else? Yes, I want to ask a question.
Can we go over
No,
the
that's not me.
evacuation plans again?
This week is Penn Hills High School Musical,
It is.
as well as
Gateway, Plum, Redeemer Lutheran.
yeah. So if you're listening concurrently with this week, go check it out. And my Amy is playing oboe and saxophone in the Penn Hills Pit. So, you know, if you just like
Oboe in the pit,
I don't
man.
have a reason to go to the Penn Hills musical, but if only there was somebody I knew who played oboe.
I mean,
I would go
Absolutely do
support
have
that.
a reason to go to the Penn
no,
Hills
he was
Musical.
saying
I'm saying if
someone
someone
was
is saying
thinking.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
You could also go because Ethan, Brian's son, is.
Oh yeah, Brian's not here to represent.
We're
That's
going.
true.
We're going Saturday. So
For those of
What
you,
musical are they doing in Penn Hills? I'm
Dirty
sorry. I haven't-
Rolton Scoundrels.
Oh my goodness.
But, a good number of the folks who sit at the table each and every week aren't local. But we encourage you. You don't have to fly to Pittsburgh to come to our musicals.
But you should.
You could. Should strong. You can go.
for any musical,
You're like, as it is. But I encourage, the reason why anyone should go to musical is because young people are applying themselves. And I tell this at church every time. It's one of the things that I encourage my church to do. And I go, I don't think anybody's listening. And I always say, go to, afterwards, all the kids come out. And I said, find a kid who didn't even have a speaking role, who was like the third dancer that they put kind of behind the curtain. I said, you tell them they did a good job, they will go through the roof. I don't think anybody
You were
ever
the
does
best
that.
treat.
You're a great tree. You didn't fall down more than twice.
Hey, you know who's not behind the curtain?
The people who sit at the head of the table, and they sit at the head of the table because they go to lunchtimeinroom.com and they become a paid subscriber. Why would you do that? Well, because it's what helps us. We make jokes about not a sponsor. We don't want to be beholden to the whims and the manipulations of corporate greed and sponsorship. They'd be like, don't be talking about that emotional need. We hate that emotional need. So we just go with those who sit at the head of the table, and we would love for you to join them there. Who would you be joining? Tell them, Chris.
Well, at the head of our table, we have Groot from the Hooked on Jesus podcast. We have Lorianne, Bethany Jaworski, Mary Lynn, Ashley, and Breaking 90.
Haven't added to that in a while. There is room for you at
Yes.
the head of the table. So please join us. You can be at the head of the table. I can't find another one. You can
And
love, but you know what? You can love our podcast and not be at the head of the table.
That's, yeah.
well
Two
played.
things can
Yep,
be true.
Two
That's
things can be
true.
true.
And so that is the topic of our conversation this evening, that two things can be true at the same time. Amy brought this up 6 months, 9 months
At least.
ago after a podcast. And I will just say this, it has rung so very true to me since then that I've been tabling it and waiting for her to come back so we could talk about it.
Tabling it.
But in general, where did we come up with, without necessarily the entire monologue, but I mean, give me the impetus of the two things can be true.
I'm trying to remember in what context it came up after that pod. Like what exactly we were talking about. I don't remember that specifically. I do, however, remember a moment from the Barbie movie when America Ferrera delivers her monologue where she goes back and forth about this push and pull of all of these different expectations that are placed primarily on women, and how you have to be bossy but not, or be a boss but not bossy, and be thin but not too thin, and be all these different things. And it resonated with me, and it caused me to try to be much more intentional in my word choice and not say but when linking two ideas, because but negates what comes before it. So I like, what did we say? What was the example? I like being home by myself, but I love my family.
No, the other is, I love my family.
Right. But
I like being at home alone.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or saying, I love my family and I like having quiet time. I recognize that that's a need that I have for a bit of disconnect and just quiet alone. Two things can be true at once. And sometimes I think society puts, you have to be in one camp or the other. There's a this or
There's
that.
a lot of camps.
There's a lot of camps, and there's a lot of gray in the world. But I feel like increasingly, to the point of the intro, increasingly it's becoming a lot more stark difference. It's this or that. There's no room for this and that. And this concept came from a place where I think people are becoming, they're labeling one another, they're labeling themselves based on one thought without recognizing that things can be simultaneously true. And I don't know. It's fascinating to me, and I found myself more and more trying to be very, very intentional about the word choice, so as not to be too extreme, and not extreme in the sense of extremism, but just,
and not so intentional. Like you said, I love my family, but I like my quiet time as well. Not so extreme as to go, I like my family, and I like, under certain circumstances,
Right.
for a period of time, for my mental health and yours. Like, okay, we can't do that either.
right. It's not the
you should be
minutia
able-
of it.
right.
But I think sometimes, I guess maybe the reverse of it, if you think of it as by saying, I love being home by myself, and people go, what, you don't love your family? Are you serious? No. Yes, I do love my family. They're amazing. I love being with them. And I know that I need sometimes to just be alone. And
It's sort of like back to school. Like you love your family. First day of school, you're like, all right, kids, we'll see you. Like, no, I used to just I'd laugh at myself coming out of preschool, dropping the kids off, and like sprinting to the car. Like, free! I got 2 hours, baby.
yeah. Really, it's like 90 minutes by the time I get to where I'm going and have to get back here for pickup and get in the line. It's really, I really have 20 minutes. I might as well just sit in the parking lot at this point. Yeah. But
So
still.
as we've been, taken
And
aback
still.
by yes and still,
All right, fine.
that was great.
Grammar police.
Okay, but how does it parlay itself into a podcast? And so we were talking yesterday about it, and we've put some things together. But already this popped into my mind. Would you say that we're, in an ever increasingly black and white world? It's either black or it's white. It's got to be one or the other.
Yes.
But is the solution? Are we contending? No, in fact, it might be gray. Or are we saying that it can be black and black, or white and black and white? Like, because gray isn't what we're saying. We're not saying everything's
I think
gray.
we're saying there's room for both thoughts
There's room
to
for
exist.
There's room for gray.
But I see what
And
you're
shades of
saying.
gray. Shades of gray. Yeah.
50 of them, in fact. I see.
Not that kind of podcast.
Yikes.
I was just randomly picking a number. What are you guys all talking about? I mean, I could have said 37, but I didn't.
I've been having an elastic problem since this podcast started, and I just fixed it.
Nice.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
I thought it was inner elastic, and it was flipped on the inside, and I just had like an extra everything's okay, everybody.
Breaking news. Next at 11. Jay's elasticity issue.
Trying to keep you all up to date here. See if I see a little distracted.
I love to be informed. I also prefer not. I think the idea is that because you say one thing, the opposite of that is not necessarily true or relevant.
No, that's a great statement. It's mathematical, even. We're back to math.
Oh, dear God, please no more math today. I've mathed a lot. A lot more than I wanted to today.
No, but just because one thing is true, the opposite does not necessarily also have to be true.
Right.
And I think I sometimes feel as though people will want to qualify their statement, to your point earlier about like, I like to be home just for like a few minutes. Like, we have to defend it, because immediately if I say I like alone time, my mind thinks that your mind is going to say she must hate her family. Or Abby loves to play soccer and not always a fan of an 8 a.m. start time when it's 45 minutes away and you have to arrive 30 minutes prior. There's some math for you. Do the soccer math. What time do you have to leave? What time do you have to be up? What time do you have to eat? What time? Two things can be true. And if you say, oh, I don't like a morning game, doesn't mean you're not committed to the team, to your sport, to doing your best. You cannot like an early game and be excited to play and be excited for the opportunity.
We mentioned it earlier, but I do think it's not unfair to say that the term I just keep coming up with is absolutism. That if you believe, if you call yourself a Christian or if you say you're this, then you cannot be in favor of this. Or if you go to this, whatever, or do that, if you say this about your family, then there's no way you're that.
Right.
I think it's growing.
I would agree. And
Things are black and white.
They're becoming the absolutism.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more black
Yeah.
and white. There's no...
Yeah.
Do you think some of that is because of how people are labeled, whether they label themselves? So, for example, your analogy of being a Christian. If you are a Christian, in my mind, this is what a Christian is. Boom, 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 boom. I remember that in college, there was a girl who was super involved in all things religious on campus, like very, very involved and very much in a leadership role. And I remember one day I ran into her on campus and I was like, don't you have like like, what are you doing? She's like, I cut class today. And I remember being so shocked because in my mind, she was like this holier than thou, devout person. And what are you doing cutting class and breaking a rule? Because that doesn't...
She's like, I was feeding the homeless.
Right, exactly. I was catching birds and freeing them. But
I was catching birds and freeing.
we had a geese problem on campus. But so I'm just wondering if that's some of it. There's labels, you are a pastor, therefore you must be this. You are a teacher, therefore you must be this. You're the techie guy, therefore you must be this. And there's no room for other interpretations or anything that is counter or contrary to what your belief is that you're projecting onto that person or that belief's not the right word, but the makeup, the persona, or I don't know.
Characteristics.
Sure, that.
And or
Traits.
patterns and or traits.
Sure.
So
Yes.
you're saying, is that based on their expectations of said, or their definitions of that?
Yeah, they're.
I would
yeah.
argue yes, but also, this is going to shock everybody at the table, I think it could go back to their past hurts with people of said grouping.
Oh yeah. So
Therefore, if
Right.
you dealt with a whole bunch of holier than thou Christians in college, all of a sudden you're going to be like, you call yourself Christian, and yet you're skipping. So I think a lot of it comes from, I use the word tribalism,
yeah.
but I think that comes from it can come from hurts, but also from an extreme need for belonging. That is the basis of tribalism, that I belong somewhere, that I'm, we came out of COVID where, hey, we're in this together and, let's all be careful to help everybody. And it was that whole thing.
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yep. And, but so therefore, if we're this, well, then you're that. And I think
if you're not for me, you're against me? Isn't that like the perception? If you don't agree with everything I say,
Well,
then
that's
you
the
must be.
definition of what
You're
we're
my
talking
enemy
about.
if you don't. Yeah.
Correct. And you must be against it all. You can't possibly just
However,
disagree.
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Like simple analogy would be like for a sense of belonging. And I saw sports was on this list. We're Pittsburgh Penguin fans here, and Flyers fan. That's a bad example. They're all horrible. No, but like on
Broad
seriousness,
strokes. Approved.
there's
Approved.
you'll see a Flyers fan do something really obnoxious on TV or whatever, but they're not all bad. Like two things can be true. You can have yeah.
Sure. So, but I think to that end, the tribalism / it has increased over the years. And I think we talked about it back when we did the mass formation psychosis analysis of things, that we are even though we're more connected than we've ever been, people feel more alone than they've ever felt.
For sure.
And so therefore, you're much more akin to joining a tribe or, a whatever, and defining yourself through that. I think that's also, so I said, why are we growing in absolutism? One, I think, is increasing the tribalism because of a high need for belonging.
And then there's we haven't talked about this in a hot minute, but social media, it's like a catch-22 because like you said, we're more connected than ever, but social media and just, I don't know, maybe the internet in general, I guess, is so like it tribalizes you in the sense that it like your algorithm, like you're not seeing everything, you're not getting everything. So you're, without realizing it, like your viewpoint starts to skew this way or that way because that's what you're seeing, that's what you're hearing, you know?
Yeah, if you don't do the due diligence to find the gray area, you're always going to see the black or the white.
And Eric, please correct me when I'm wrong.
Okay.
But your standard algorithm, Facebook, or should I say Meta, even X, they believe engagement lies in conflict. And so what they'll do is show you what you agree with, and then they'll show you the extreme opposite of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Whereas, and so not the rational opposite
Tricky.
of it, but the extreme opposite so that you get your dander up and say, oh, you're an idiot, you don't know. But whereas TikTok's algorithm says, oh, you think this? We're going to give you nothing but this. Because when they were going to ban TikTok, what I was on the No Agenda podcast, he was talking about, it was funny because different groups were like, oh, they're coming after TikTok because that's where all the patriots are. And then you would hear, oh, they're coming after TikTok because that's where all the LGBTQ community is. They're coming after...
Everybody sees it as their own,
as
with their own
little world.
perspective.
Yeah.
So if you think about, if you're getting one social media platform is telling you everybody thinks like you. And then the two other biggest platforms are saying a lot of people believe you, and there's a lot of evil out there that doesn't believe what you believe, and they believe the exact opposite. Well, that's nothing but tribalism.
Right.
There's no like, yeah, it's a good point. Maybe so,
Right,
maybe
yeah.
so. You don't get a lot of clicks.
Right.
With rational
Because
thought.
I've read rational responses or rational posts, and then you get a really irrational response where, it doesn't make any sense.
And I would say there are extremes because one of the things that I like to do is follow people on social media who are in the news or who are creators and or commenters, who used to think one way but now think another. Because I can see, okay, there's a balance there.
Yeah.
But then both sides will alienate somebody who doesn't agree 100% with them.
Right.
So I think that's one. But I think another reason for the absolutism is a lot of insecurity about one's own points, one's own beliefs.
Okay.
Wait, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, I'm not really sure about what I believe, or I can't defend what I believe. So I'm going to attack anything that's opposite because I don't want to have a rational conversation.
Interesting.
So it comes from a place of anger versus understanding.
Insecurity, if you will.
Yeah,
Anger.
yeah.
Past hurts. Like,
Well,
oh,
I'm saying anger from the reaction that it stems from an insecurity, but it comes out as anger in the way that you respond to someone else's point.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely comes out as anger.
Yeah.
But I mean, go back to also and the past hurts thing. If you were grown up in a world like for me, if my friends weren't Catholic, my mother was like, oh, well, what was that? Well, that's okay. We'll still be nice to them, but I don't want you spending a lot of time with them. I mean, that was early on. And if you were raised by somebody that no matter if you were ever wrong, you were really wrong. Well, now you don't ever want to be wrong with somebody else. So you're going to push back because mom and dad always beat me up. So I'm going to make sure you don't tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, you mean like
And
if
so-
you were wrong, people let you know it hard.
Right.
That's what.
Or if you were
okay.
rejected, if your parents if you didn't ever have a big sense of belonging in your life. Okay, now you're married and your spouse says, boy, honey, I really wish, you would have made me lunch today. Oh, is that a rejection of who I am? And I'm he can wish you made him lunch and still love you.
Right.
He can be
Right.
disappointed in something you did or didn't do. But if you've been pushed down your whole life by your parents, you're going to push back on anybody that reminds you of them. Now, is that the cause of the increased absolutism in our world today? I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Do you also think that the responses have become increasingly volatile and hateful.
Sharp?
Which is, thank you. I don't like the word
Hateful's
hate.
a bit much.
Yeah, but they are increasingly sharp, which then,
Absolute.
well, and for some people maybe requires or forces them to kind of go more inward and become less, to your point about being insecure, less confident in what they're saying, not because they're not confident, but because they're not up for a debate or a,
That's
or,
me. Well, and I can tell you why.
Not less confident.
It's-
less outspoken.
Less outspoken because
Well-
because I was actually thinking
Less
about
in the
this
mood to defend.
when I saw the insecurity. It's not that I'm not in the mood to defend, but it's more my need of acceptance because like I don't want to say something that would offend somebody, or
and be shunned for it
or be
whatever.
slightly wrong or whatever, and then they come back at me and like it's this online fight, and it's like no, because like everything seems like a fight online because it's not an actual real conversation between two people, and because I've posted things on Reddit that shouldn't be combative, like I'm asking advice and somebody's like,
Oh yeah.
and somebody will be like, you could have Googled this, and I'm like, and I want to be like, bro, I'm a freaking SEO. It's what I do for a living. Like
Like the fire in
I
his eyes there.
think
Did you see that?
I think I could have found this on
Yeah.
the internet, and it.
But I
But you
wanted
didn't say
and
that,
it really,
did you?
but I didn't because like it's a waste of time. And then like he's just gonna respond with some next snarky comment.
And douche doogie
you know.
1971 isn't going to take
Right,
your...
and then the nice guy that reply, oh, did you think of this? And like, oh, I didn't think of that. And then now we're actually having a good conversation, and I can engage with that guy. But like that one guy is like, and that's why I don't post a lot. I don't comment. Like we've talked about this before. I'm not on a lot of social media anymore, because of that high need of acceptance, and
Right.
I just don't, and I don't feel like getting into it.
Because you're not sucked up into that absolutism.
Right.
Like you can have that belief. Cool. Like
Right.
for me, I
just
don't
delete it. Yeah, like yeah.
I don't engage in those debates with almost anybody. I mean, let alone on social media.
Right.
But because I value the relationship more than the point.
Right. Right.
Yes, the need. What is it? It's better to be. It's nice to be. It's right to be nice. It's not nice to be right, or something like that.
It's being right is nice, but being nice is better.
Weak.
No, no, I don't. But there's. It's the idea
Pork
that
chop on his neck.
But it's
Never
nice
mind.
not to be right, or not have to be right. Is kind of like where it's alluding to.
Better to be. It's better to
It's
be
better to be
quiet and
nice.
make people wonder what you're thinking or wonder that you're stupid. And
then open your mouth and prove them
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think there's something.
That was good.
Yeah, we got
that
there. We went
together
through
real
we went
nice.
through Utah to get
good.
back to Connecticut, but we figured it out. I think there's a lot of that need for belonging makes a whole lot of sense, and that need for someone the fear of someone challenging and perhaps disrupting that comfortability and that need and that belonging and that safety in that feeling. If you put yourself out there and you say, I think X, Y, and Z, and it's an opinion, and then it's getting attacked when it's an opinion.
Well, and it's also like there's even moments where it's like just saying something and somebody replies just to reply. Mm-hmm. Just to like it's like
Or the replies of,
or
"Just delete it."
What I'm meaning to say is like you make a statement and it's an absolutely true statement, and then somebody takes it the wrong way, and then it goes down that rabbit hole.
Or the people who get into the fight and then the commentary is, it's funny that you're commenting on this. Like you're going to come on here and and it's like these keyboard warriors that just have no filter and no consequence, frankly. And I think more and more people are doing exactly what you're saying, is kind of scaling back on their social media, because I'd rather have a conversation with friends in a room where you can hear the tone of my voice, where you can see my facial expressions and read my body language to know that I'm not angry. Whereas we had a webinar for work about the differences in generations, and if you use punctuation in text messages, you're mad. If you use capital...
You mean punctuation?
You mean like
Yes.
just correct punctuation?
Yes, like I will be there at 8, period. I'll bring cookies. period.
Easy, Amy. Easy
Yes,
with the period.
I don't know if Abby should be home. I don't know if she's listening, but that's apparently a thing. And I listened to the webinar and I was like, that sounds really funny. So I asked Abby and she was like, oh yeah. She's like, if you use, and she doesn't use proper capitalization in text messages. And her,
So that's a generational thing.
correct.
Right?
It-
Yeah.
Yes.
Bella told me she did poorly on a college exam, and I wrote, well, ... And she did reply, I can hear the disappointment in your voice.
Oh.
Well, here's the funny part.
My mom's
I
is- my mom's response to things, if it's okay, ... I'm like, what is that? That's like, okay.
Wait, 4 dots?
It's definitely
gonna
not.
say,
Really counted.
It's definitely not an affirmative. Okay.
Correct.
No, the dots add this sort of like.
Or the conversation. If someone sent you an email and said, Chris, let's talk tonight about the outlines you prepare for the podcast. How would you take that?
I would take it as somebody has no idea what they're talking about because I don't prepare any outlines for podcasts.
Fair point. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Bad example.
It is very nebulous, and when you just get a text like, so yeah, your brain starts turning like, okay, are we just having a conversation to iron out some details, or is it a let's talk kind of like a negative connotation?
Same.
Yeah.
So I brought this to someone's attention, and I was like, if you were happy with it, you would have said, great outline.
Right.
Let's talk more tonight. Or
Yes.
looking forward to talking about our outline or something. But let's discuss how we prepare outlines for the show.
Yeah.
Feels like a,
The entire time you're talking, I'm like, are you talking about me in this? Like that I said to you? Because didn't I send to you? You're not talking about
Yeah,
me
yes.
sending
Not
this
at
to you?
all.
We're talking about Jay
Well, 'cause
right
I
now.
was
Because I
nervous.
sent you the outline.
did, and
no, but it was just so funny. I'm like, I didn't say that at all. Why you didn't?
I was nervous because I was looking for it, and then it clicked. I was like, oh, he probably sent it to my work email.
Remember
which he
when
did.
Jay said to you yesterday, like, no, Amy, this is how you make an outline.
And I said, I'll make the outline how I want to make the outline because my way can be right and your way can be right.
That
Two
is
things
true.
Can be true.
I would be remiss if I didn't point out the same thing I pointed out back in, the mass formation days when we keep talking about, well, they're doing this. They are doing, who's
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion, they always is still the enemy of division. And, that what?
It's just all kinds of
They
awkward
always-
grammar.
they always is them.
They always is.
He, it, they.
But if you look at the impact of this increased tribalism and absolutism with just this free flow of not only information, but of manipulation, of I don't believe just about anything that I see on the internet ever
But if it's on the
from
internet.
my side or the other side or the third side or the middle.
So where do you get reliable information? And that's not entirely a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
You got to look for it. You got to go back to the
repetition,
source.
multiple sources,
Right.
credible sources. Like even
our encyclopedia is coming into play. I just need to know. I'm just really curious.
Depends on what year it is.
Mount Vesuvius.
When I build my time machine, I will pull out my encyclopedia.
I think multiple.
Vivisection. Huh? I'm giving you a friend's reference.
I think multiple
Joey
sources.
only bought the V encyclopedia.
I think multiple sources are key because there are just so many talking heads out there, and I get so tired of like hearing
Yeah.
someone's thoughts on like I don't need your opinion and your thoughts and your like anger or whatever you're because they're angry about whatever happened or they're
your
yeah
lens.
like
Sorry.
and if you're only getting it from one source, then you're constantly getting that same.
Right.
So my point being, the effects of all of this is greater division,
Yeah.
isolation, anger,
Sounds great.
hurts, and we are being manipulated. I mean, we are in a spiritual battle. And so the enemy wants to divide, distort, destroy. And that's exactly what happens. That we have these fights over things that just don't matter.
Well,
And
and
the-
I
go
find
ahead.
people just looking for the bad in the other side.
Because it's different than yours.
Come on, guys.
Right.
Because it's different than yours.
That
And
goes
there
back to
again,
the insecurity.
and that goes back to the black and white
Right,
because
because I think a good example, not to get political, but there's one side that says, oh, we're ruining the country with getting rid of all these programs, and then the other side's like, oh, we need to gut this government like a fish, but then there's also like me in the middle. I'm like, well, I do give these people a lot of my money.
And I still want that other guy to have a job.
Every paycheck, it might be nice to look in to see where it's going, and maybe some of these things aren't that great, and I don't want my money going to killing other people. That'd be nice. Things like that, like somewhere in the middle where it sounds more reasonable, but like we are so separated, and I think there would be a lot more people that would meet in the middle
if there was a discussion.
If there was a discussion in the middle.
I think we kind of glossed past Amy's point of like having, and you can't do this with like national media or like wherever you get, but if you are in a sort of black and white situation closer to home, like Amy was making the point about a face-to-face conversation, like it's just like you are literally automatically going to have a different response than if it's on social media,
and it's going to be interpreted much more clearly.
That's
in person.
for sure.
That's why,
because everyone's
sure.
going to give the worst common or option possible.
Yeah,
they're not going to go, maybe they're really excited about that.
Like you
no,
can't.
They were mad. They were upset. They were angry.
It's a huge part of it that, it's been years now, maybe since we've talked about this subject, Jay. But like you were citing stats 100 some episodes ago about how much of communication is
the words.
Yeah.
7%. But I want to go back to my point is I do think it's a spiritual thing because it causes greater division. It causes greater separation. There's people that you might reach out to for help, but you're like, oop, they're on the wrong team.
Yeah.
I no longer talk to them. And then let's go even more closer to home. If you live in this absolute lifestyle, and I made one reference earlier about, the husband with, could I be more sexist stereotype? Just because you disagree with something your spouse does doesn't mean you don't love your spouse.
For sure.
But it can be received that way.
For sure.
Oh, you didn't defend me here. You disagreed with me. Right. So therefore.
Right.
And so the relationships just get broken up. And the key, you just brought it up, and it's why we do this each and every week, is, and I said it in church on Sunday. I talked about how, in James chapter 4, it's a sin if you slander, which is to speak against somebody. Not just slander, speak against. Mm-hmm. And I said, and guess what? Y'all do it. Mm-hmm. And why do you do it? Because you don't know how to conflict resolution. You don't have conflict resolution skills.
Yeah.
You don't know your emotions. So therefore you are manipulated by your feelings. You're not aware of where your hurts go. So what do? You go and you talk behind somebody's back. Or you assume the worst. You put somebody else's hurts on somebody else. So we do have to continue to learn in our knowledge of these things, understand that others don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to sound elitist, but those of us who sit at the table each and every week, we've got a much better understanding of what's going on in our heart and in our head, and know that the other people probably don't. And so we have to help them along. Before we stay and finish on a negative, I would like to go over 5 different categories where 2 things can be true.
Okay.
And I want us to, as a group, the five. 2 things can be true.
Brian's
I can
here
be good
in
at math.
Stanley's
I can
at
be
the
good
table.
at math, and I can also screw up counting to 5. 4. 1 or 2 for each one, where 2 things can be true, and that would be controversial.
Ooh. Game on.
Wait, what do you want us to do?
Come up with something 2 things that can be true in the category of faith.
Oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
2 things that can be true that some people would say, you can't do that.
That you can't do that.
That there's an absolute there. Like, you can be a Christian, and you can enjoy alcohol. There are people that will say you can't do that. You can't call yourself a Christian.
Sure.
You can't be a pastor and not particularly care for church. I mean, I make the best of it.
You can love music
In church.
Wait, but you're asking of the opposite.
Faith is the subject, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
faith is the
We're still in faith.
We're not on
Oh,
vinyl
sorry,
yet.
sorry,
We're not
sorry,
on vinyl
sorry,
yet.
sorry.
We'll get back there.
Well, I
Don't
was
worry.
reading- okay,
Don't
so we're
worry.
go-
Oh,
I
you
got-
can be a
I got the
Christian.
list. Yeah,
Oh, you can be a sound doctrine Christian and sing Hillsong music?
That's right. Some people
fire.
would say no.
Some would say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to them we say,
Nay, nay.
poo poo, said Madeline to the tiger in the zoo. Oh gosh.
You could be a Christian and be exhausted of helping out a church.
Oh.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
So it's not.
It's not that controversial.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it is controversial because people, it's like Kelly cutting class. Like, I can't imagine, like, how can you say
saying
that?
it.
Right.
Saying it is
There you
the
go.
point.
That's fair.
Most
Yes.
Christians are tired of helping out a
Yeah,
church.
yeah, right.
I'll go potentially a little more controversial. You could be Christian, or it's okay. You could be a follower of Jesus
Ooh, even better.
and not want to follow everything that like is the Old Testament. What's it like in Leviticus and stuff, right? All those things.
Tattoos.
Yeah, all those things.
Right.
Yeah. There's right. There are people who would say
To follow. Sure.
The law.
Yeah,
You know what I
without
mean.
getting nerdy theologically about
Right,
it.
right.
I mean, certainly.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I think women can cut their hair.
Right.
So there's that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of like little things in
Well,
there.
there's lots of
you know?
old, like
Well,
like
yeah.
I know like on a Sabbath, like you're not supposed to do any work. There's a
But
lot
then
of
we get
things
into
we
the
do on.
spirit of
There's
it.
a lot of things we
the
do on
spirit
Sunday.
of it
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
the letter of it as it was written for the,
The
time
intent.
that it was.
Some people say flipping a light switch is too much work.
Right.
Like that's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like
Well, we have the twisty ones, and sometimes
that is a little work.
You got
Yeah.
two hands. You
Dimmer
gotta press
switch.
the button and do this.
sports and activities. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
I don't mind the Ravens.
That's awkward.
Well, mine's kind of the same way. With I'm a Steelers fan, and I'm okay with the Browns, but
Well,
it's mainly because like
cares?
I grew up
oh,
in a time that we beat them all the time, so I was like, I don't get the big
we still
deal.
do.
Oh,
the
so it's
beauty
not
of it.
it's not
Yeah.
a rivalry to
Right,
you
it's not a
because
rivalry
it's
to
not.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I'm not as techie as Eric, but I'm traditionally a techie-ish guy. But I just love that vinyl.
You guys both like disc golf, and you don't disc golf. Two things can be true. And don't think, and Amy and I both noticed it. What's the name of your app for your little vinyl industry thing you got going on?
Discogs.
Disc cogs.
We went from disc golf to disc hogs.
Break away from the discs. For crying out loud! Next, we're getting into back treatments.
Jay's
Discs
gonna
in
be
your back.
throwing vinyl pretty soon. He's
Yeah.
You wouldn't know.
well, you might do it in our house.
Music.
Oh well, you can. I mean, some people are very tribal with the genre of music they
Well.
listen to, but you can
Can you like,
country and rap.
Yes. You can like music and jazz.
You can like live music, but not.
But
And you can like live music and be annoyed with the fans with whom
oh,
you're
for sure.
taking in the concert.
For sure. That's
You
why-
mean like that tall guy who just comes and stands right in front of you and
Or
that
these
one-
people.
Oh, hands up at
your
the phone.
flip-
or that one
phone
person who
down.
smokes marijuana?
that one.
Marijuana? No one does that. That's illegal.
You can like music and think the Doors are the worst band ever to exist.
Dadgum right, you can.
You can like music and not listen to DVE like every other Pittsburgher.
They don't play music anymore, do they?
I don't know. Haven't listened to
They play the
DVE
same
in
other than the morning
Dog
babies.
days.
I mean,
yeah.
if you
Although
like
it's-
classic
yeah.
rock, I mean, it's there. You know.
Or you can listen to secular music and then switch on over after the age game and listen to K-Love.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
or the message, whatever it is on Sirius.
Let's combine a couple. You can be a Christian
Yeah.
and not love K-Love.
Yeah. I don't listen to
Well,
K-Love.
and you
I
can be a
listen-
Christian and not listen to Christian music all the time.
Sure.
And Christian artists do that. I mean, everybody's looking for ideas and inspiration.
Sure.
and, You know.
Yeah.
We had two other categories, but we're not going to go into them because it's going to get negative.
Uh-oh. Why?
yeah, let's not do it.
What are the other categories?
Politics.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Oh,
You can-
relationships. That's
Lightning
just
round.
heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many
Anybody
things you
want-
could say, but it'd be,
So many.
But see, therein lies the problem.
You can't talk
we're-
about
because
it.
we're literally talking about it right now because we could say like I love, and you could fill in the blank.
And
Nope, can't do that. You know, like Chris. I'll be Chris. I'll pretend to be Chris. I love my Tesla.
And
And I'm not gonna say the like anything else, because whatever I say, whether I'm for or against, like you know what it's.
I don't mind
But see,
saying
that
Elon
right there-
drives me crazy. Okay, there it is.
But I mean, but the thing is,
I
though.
don't- whatever.
But my point is, you'll get a response from the other side or the
Yeah.
other side,
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
You can't
that's
do
the
that.
whole.
And that's my
the whole
point.
point. Exactly. That's the point. We can't.
You said we were going to end on a negative.
We're not. I'll bring it back to the original. I love my family, and I love my alone time. I love having girls that are 5 years apart, and I find sometimes it's challenging because I have, in some senses, it feels like we have two separate families.
I love them a little less.
Oh no, Abby and Alyssa. If you're Alyssa, you should be asleep. But Abby, if you're listening, we love you just as much. Relationships.
Are we
Trying not to be negative. Are you done?
Shall I?
I've got it. Yeah, I was done 5 minutes ago.
Yowzas.
Who wants to close it out tonight?
Not me.
That'd be Amy.
That'd be me then, because it's Eric or Amy. That's it for episode 279. We're going to end on a positive note, whether you all like it or not. Join us next week for episode 280, because that comes right after 279, in case you who couldn't do math couldn't do that.
What's up now?
Between now and then, please give us a like or love or follow us on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week.
Bye.
R.I.P. Val Kilmer.
Oh, bye. That